Why seats are generally blue. Have you ever paid attention to the color of the airline seats? They're almost always blue, and there are very few exceptions to this rule. Some people assume that this color was chosen as it reminds us of the sky. But the explanation isn't that simple. It's all about making the traveling experience less stressful, and blue is said to evoke a feeling of calm. While some of the more budget airlines might use brasher, bolder shades, most others go with muted tones. The overarching aim is to create a home-like relaxing feel, so airlines tend to use muted colors that feel domestic, natural and earthy for that reason. It's also a trend that emerged decades ago and has simply stuck. They added, blue became the color of choice because it's a conservative, non-contentious, corporate shade that symbolizes being trustworthy and safe. According to British scientists, most people associate the color blue with reliability and safety. That's very important even for the passengers who don't suffer from aerophobia. Also, according to research, 90% of people subconsciously make a decision about the attractiveness of a company depending on the brand colors. 2. The importance of blue fabric. There is a practical reason why airlines choose blue seats. Fabric, dirt, stains, and scrapes are less visible on this color, and, therefore, these seats can be in use for a longer period of time in comparison with ones covered with a lighter colored upholstery. However, since fewer people can afford to fly first class, airlines use bright upholstery there more often as the fabric wears out slower. An interesting fact, in the 1970s and 1980s some airlines tried to use red upholstery. However, later on they had to change it to blue, as it turned out the color red increased the level of aggression among the passengers. 3. The science behind the lighting. Cabin lighting is also geared towards creating a stress-free atmosphere on board, particularly in newer planes which have introduced soft LED lighting to replace the harsher light used in earlier models. There is definitely a science behind getting the right lighting on board, looking at the mix of colors used on board and how the light will reflect off the thread of the fabric. Work with lots of CMF color, materials and finish specialists who look at various textiles and put a lot of work into choosing the best color for the lighting. They want to make the seats restful but also somewhat interesting and not too bland to look at. Lighting and color are particularly important in the built environment. 4. The science behind noise-canceling walls. Several studies in recent years have exposed some of the detrimental effects of aircraft noise on health, including one back in 2010 which suggested that dying from a heart attack was more common among people with increased exposure to aircraft noise. In recent times, new technology has revealed ways that aircraft noise could be reduced. Insulating the plane fuselage with a thin membrane, for example, can reduce the relentless hum of plane engines and make flying less noisy. 5. There's a secret room. Found only on wide-body aircraft like Boeing's Dreamliner, there is a small room hidden behind what looks like a small cupboard from the exterior. Known as the crew rest, this tiny compartment opens up to a steep staircase that leads down to a few seats and bunk beds where crew members can sleep. These hidden crew areas are less than 5 feet high and can fit up to 4 people. This space is located in the front area at the nose of the aircraft, but most passengers would not have noticed it. 6. All seats must pass the 16 grams test. Passenger seats with dummies strapped to them are put through the 16G test, a process which involves hurtling the seat down a sledge ramp at high speeds to simulate a plane crash setting. All seats are required to withstand a 16 grams dynamic force. The seats are sent down the slope at various angles to look at different crash scenarios and to see which parts of the seat need to be modified for maximum safety. All fabrics are also fire tested to make sure they are quickly extinguishable. 7. Why don't Ryanair seats recline? Airlines are always looking for ways to keep the weight of a plane down to keep fuel costs at a minimum, often at the expense of its passengers' comfort. Seats which lack a foam covering are designed instead to be thin, light and to optimize living space for passengers. Seats on many low-cost carriers like Ryanair don't have a recline mechanism, which also adds to the weight, and others go as far as removing the seatback net for magazines to help reduce weight. In terms of flooring, there isn't much variety in the carpets and most airlines go with either nylon or woolen carpets which are the most lightweight for cabin use. 8. Which seat is best in flight? The best place to sit on a plane exit rows, aisle or window seats, and seats close to the front are typically considered the best seats on a plane. On a short business trip, you might want an aisle seat near the front of the plane so you can debark as quickly as possible on arrival. 9. Is window seat better or aisle? Which seat is better, window or aisle? Statistically, the aisle seat is more popular among frequent air travelers. Passengers who prefer the aisle seats say it's better because they have easy access to the restrooms, the possibility of a little extra legroom, and they're first to exit the aircraft. 10. How do you choose a window seat on a plane? Look for a link saying something like "Pick my seats" after you've chosen your flight. Click on a seat next to the window. If you have connecting flights, click on Next Flight so you can choose a seat on that plane as well. If you're booking your flight over the phone, ask the agent for a seat next to a window. 11. Where is the quietest place to sit on a plane? A JetBlue pilot said the quietest seats on an airplane are forward of the wings because the engines are located under the wings. Sitting in the front of the wing is like being behind a speaker. All of the sounds of the engine and disturbed air are projected away from you, the pilot said. For a more peaceful ride, he suggests that you snag a seat in the front of the cabin. Keep in mind that those seats can be the most expensive ones, but this tip can be useful if you're flying on an airline like Southwest that doesn't have assigned seats. 12. Have you ever sit at the window seat but saw nothing because the window was almost behind you? This happens because airlines can adjust and install the seats themselves. Therefore, even though aircraft producers usually provide the guidelines for installation, however, airlines rarely follow the advice in order to fit as many passengers as possible to save the costs. If you're tall, be sure to sit next to the emergency exit. There is more space between the seat rows and you won't have to fly with your knees near your ears. But keep in mind that the seats in the row near the emergency exit don't recline so they don't interfere with an emergency evacuation. For this reason they may not be the best choice for some passengers. Hopefully you enjoyed the amazing facts about airplane. Thank you for watching. Share, like and subscribe. Bye, stay healthy.